and welcome to another weekly update. I hope you're doing well. Sorry you're over here. Hello. Hope it's been a good week. Plenty of interesting things to talk about this week, so let's jump into it. And the first thing I want to talk about is a blog post and a video that I did last week, but after last week's update, talking all about building Microsoft 365 Copilot plugins and using the existing Microsoft Teams messaging extension samples to make that a really easy job. Now, the focus of this video was really showing how straightforward it can be, how anybody can do it, how you don't need to be a developer. There's a whole video you can go and watch, but also there's a blog post that goes through kind of what the demo that I've built does. And my goal here was also to create something that was actually quite useful, not just like a hello world sample. Keep it really simple, but also make it genuinely impactful. And I think I've done that in the way that I've done the video. So the video is here, and then also underneath the video is a full text description of what we're building, why we're building it, and then some screenshots from the video, kind of with the high level steps. So if you're a seasoned developer and you're already very familiar with the messaging extension sample, you can probably skim through these screenshots to get an understanding of what's happening here with some code and all the rest of it. So hopefully that's a useful resource if you're thinking about building a Copilot plugin. You want to try and build your first one and you don't really know what to build, or you're maybe a bit intimidated that you need to have a big plan. Hopefully this will be something you can do inside of about 30 to 40 minutes, I would say, to get a plugin up and running in Copilot for Microsoft 365, which is exciting. In the demo and kind of current capabilities, that's all done through Microsoft Teams, the Copilot chat in Microsoft Teams. So that's there. You can go watch the video. You can go and read the blog post all about it. And hope it's useful. Other news, other things that are happening. So Microsoft are on a bit of a deprecation march. So they are deprecating some different APIs that we're going to talk about. And the first one is the Microsoft Graph meeting registration beta APIs. Okay, so this is fairly big news. Okay, so you kind of want to pay attention to this if you're using the beta meeting registration APIs, especially around webinars. So if you have any kind of webinar support, you do need to pay some careful attention to this. There's two things that are happening. The first is that the meeting registration beta APIs that support the initial version, when they say the initial version, they mean the old Teams webinar experience. So you might not notice, but there is a new version of Teams webinar now. And the old way of the API calls that created webinars in the old way are being deprecated. They're going to stop returning data on the 30th of September 2024. So right now there is no good alternative for these. Okay, but the alternative is coming. Microsoft say here that they're going to be in beta by May 2024. Now this is going to be one of those areas where it's going to be really important to make sure you do the correct mapping from the old to the new. Microsoft have listed here the API support. Here we go. And you can see this table shows the mapping of the existing registration APIs to the new ones, along with saying like they're not here, but they're coming. Now, what's interesting, not all of these are going to be here in May 2024. Okay, so if you currently have things that you do with the old ones, it is absolutely worth checking this table, finding out whether you're going to have support in beta for May 2024. And then the assumption there is that they're going to go GA before September the 30th. So there's no GA gap, if you like. But if there's things in here that are not on the May 2024 timeline, you just need to make sure you understand what that means, because that that might mean that there won't be GA support in September when the old version is turned off. So quite a lot to ingest there if you have any kind of webinar support. So I definitely get on this blog post and understand it and get talking to Microsoft if it's not clear. Other deprecation. This is a kind of an old one, actually. Well, I say it's an old one. I'm sure there's people using it. There's a non-Microsoft Graph OneNote API. As part of that, there is a Get Pages API call that allows you to search using a search kind of parameter that supports consumer notebooks. And anyway, it's being decommissioned. It's on May the 5th. I presume, well, this is interesting. So it's being announced on April the 5th, deprecation, with a 1 month to do something about it before it gets turned off on May the 5th. So that is a short deprecation window. So if you are using this non-Microsoft Graph kind of OneNote API to do anything, you've got a month to get off it, basically. So yeah, if you use that, maybe you probably should have moved to Graph by now. I don't know enough about the OneNote API to know whether that's a sensible thing to say. Like, there might be functionality in the old OneNote API that you don't have in Graph today. If that's true, I would like to hear about it, because I don't have a lot of experience with the OneNote API. I would love to know if that's true, and whether you're kind of in a bind now because you're being told to move to Microsoft Graph, but the functionality isn't there. As far as I know, the functionality is there. So yeah, you've got a month to move off. Good luck. And finally, it wouldn't be a weekly update without talking a little bit about AI. And there's a good wrap-up blog post by Jared Spataro that came out in the week, just highlighting the latest changes Microsoft have been making to Copilot in Microsoft 365. There's kind of two big things. The biggest one by far is the fact that Copilot for Microsoft 365 is going to start using GPT-4 Turbo, which is kind of one of the newer models. It, in my experience, gives much better answers, certainly than 3.5. So that's going to be great. Like, it's going to give much more natural sounding sort of sentences and answers to questions. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. They're removing a bunch of lengths and upload limits and stuff like that. And then the other big change is they're expanding the image generation stuff in Microsoft Designer, which I don't use that much of, but I do use it sometimes, and it's nice. So it's good to see that's getting better. I think this stuff is important. I think it's kind of important for Microsoft to keep investing, and like very loudly investing in Copilot for Microsoft 365 rather than considering it a one and done, especially if they want to get people on this subscription train. Like, I think they do need to kind of show that they are continually pushing forward, and not to feel like the battle's won, because I think it's such a long way from being won, even in the enterprise space. So all to play for AI in the enterprise, I think. So yeah, this is good. Good to see. And there's a whole blog post that Jared goes into some of the detail there about what it means to use GPT-4 Turbo, and what you can expect, and then some of the designer stuff as well. So lots of interesting things going on this week. Yeah, and it's all hotting up for conference season as well. That kind of is kicking off now. So yep, we're all sort of planning our travel again for the new year and planning what we're going to talk about. Harder than ever, I think, this year to take some of the submissions, because the way it works, like you submit to conferences ahead of time, and then if you get selected, then you go and speak. There's quite a calendar gap between those things happening. So it's definitely a case of going back to the sessions that we put together and revising and rewriting, because so much has changed, especially in the AI space. But also not just the AI space. Microsoft moves forward in a number of different areas around communications and collaboration. Some of the Azure Communication Services stuff I'm going to be talking about in around about a month's time completely changed. So I think the focus of what I'm going to be talking about is very different to what I planned to talk about, because of lots of new functionality that's come out. But that's good, that's exciting, and that's why we do this stuff, right? All right, that's enough from me. Have a great week, whatever it is you're doing, and I will speak to you again next time.